Hey everyone, this is going to be my installation videos. To start off, I've got the QA1 K member installed. Bolts right up to the factory location of the 4 bolts on the K member. The old one is still stashed over here. Here I've got a QA1 adjustable sleeve attached to the Moog inner and outer tie rods. Just to show you guys how it works, if I hold this outer tie rod in place, I can actually adjust the length of the sleeve, increasing it in this direction. With the locking nuts in place, that's just holding where I've already got it lined up, and I can actually tighten that back up to shorten it to that length. That length I've gotten reference with the original, pretty darn close, and I figure once I get it installed, I added a bunch of anti-seize. That's going to prevent the threads from stripping and keeping it pretty easy as far as adjustability goes. Now I'll show you how I installed one. Just took a bunch of this anti-seize and I'm pretty liberal with it. This one's pretty nice. It comes in like a glue stick form. Those of you that know how anti-seize is, it gets everywhere, so gloves are always nice if you don't want to get it on your clothes and whatnot. This is the right hand side. QA1 was nice enough to actually stamp the left hand thread nut, so when it comes to installing that, that'll go on the inner tie rod. The sleeve itself also has a notch on this side which indicates the inner tie rod side. So this has the left hand side threads and this is the standard side. We'll add the locking nut to these, which spin on. Once you get that on, you can add it to the sleeve. Again, the side without the notch is going to be the one with the right hand threads or the standard threads. All that extra anti-seize makes it glide on nice and smooth. Now we'll start on the left hand thread. Again, anti-seize is your friend here, so feel free to use as much as you've got. That locking nut here actually has the LH stamped right at the top, so you know that that's going to go on the inner tie rod. Alright, now you can sleeve this in. Take your time with it. Make sure to keep the threads nice and straight. Should glide right in. And that's how you get your tie rods assembled. Again, use the originals for length as far as measurements go. And once it's on the car, it is just as easy as loosening up those locking nuts in either direction. That way you can twist that sleeve to increase and decrease the length of it. What's up everybody? I've got the steering link pretty much set up here, the idler and pitman arm. Right now, my buddy Corey and I are Getting ready to slide these torsion bars in. I just cleaned up the sockets one more time with the toothbrush, a little degreaser spray. Got a bunch of anti-seize. Make sure everything slides in really nice. Pulled the lower control arms out so that way I could slide the torsion bars in from the front, just for ease of access since I don't actually have them in yet. That way I can slide the lower control arm on and then I'll be able to adjust it as needed. The strut rods went on fairly easily. Stay tuned for more. Hey everybody, today's Sunday. I'm just going to do a bit of a recap on getting all the QA1 suspension installed, or at least how much I've got so far. My first suggestion would be get a second pair of hands to pick up this K-member because it's definitely a bit awkward. One thing I changed on that was picked up some grade 8 bolts and washers because the ones that came with it were a little lackluster. Once I got that tightened up, it's pretty straightforward. It's just 4 bolts. You get those in. Everything sits in pretty well. Nice and centered. I did have the lower control arms hung on the K-member at first, but after thinking about it, my friend Corey and I decided to slide the torsion bars in from the front side of the cross member back there. So I took the lower control arm out for room to do so, put anti-seize on either end of that torsion bar, was able to slide it in, and then I was able to pick up the lower control arm assembly, reattach it so I could pull that torsion bar forward. Once I got the torsion bar in, also attached the strut bar to the K-member here and found that as you're lifting the lower control arm into the K-member, once it's sleeved about halfway through, the strut bar lines up pretty much perfect to get that in there, and then you can slide the lower control arm the rest of the way into the K-member and attach the nut and bolt supplied. Once that was in and the torsion bar was attached, we moved on to the upper control arms. Got the eccentric bolts in. I might have them in backwards, but I wasn't really a fan of how they looked the other way, so I put them in here. We'll see if the alignment guy hates me later on. The other thing we noticed with the upper control arms was right there on the pinch weld, it was actually making contact with the upper control arm, the rear portion of the upper control arm, before it was hitting the bump stop. I know these bump stops are old and decrepit, so I'll get new ones eventually, but we clearanced it just in case. So both sides, the rear portion of that control arm was just getting a little close to that pinch weld. Once we had that on, was able to get the steering link in. Just threw the bolt in the idler arm real quick. It's upside down right now, but I don't have the steering box for the car, so once I get that installed, we can actually get that set up and make it true, or at least straight as it can be, before taking it to the alignment shop. Here I've got the Willwood disc brake set up, the dyno lights. Just kind of dry fitted right now, knocked up. Gonna grease some wheel bearings today, get these shocks in, and mount the sway bar. Alright everyone, I've got the QA1 set up, completely installed, sway bars, shocks. We've got stock style torsion bars in there. Steering link, idler arm, pitman arms in there. I just need to get the steering box. Everything's looking pretty darn good. The QA1 goodness. Got some woods peeking out through here as well. Got those single adjustable shocks in. Everything's torqued down. Aside from the strut bars and the lower control arms, since I don't have a stroker in there and it's not really sitting at ride height, we tighten those down once that gets sorted out. Things looking pretty good. The sway bar was interesting to install. Just had to remember to open up those torsion bar adjuster bolts. They were the only thing that was keeping the car standing up as high as it is. And once we got that leveled out, it made it a lot easier to adjust those end links onto the lower control arms. So she's a roller again. Huge shout out to my best friend Corey, Squirrely Bastard on Instagram. If it weren't for him, I would not have gotten this done. Wheel lids are looking good underneath. See the suspension all hooked up. Thanks again for watching the YouTube channel. Appreciate the support. If you could hit that subscribe button, be able to keep the updates coming at you. I'm going to be posting about the disc brake setup as well, just for any reference for anyone else that's got a charger out there and decides to go with the disc upgrades.